In the meantime, we're delighted to be joined by Senator Marco Rubio. He is one of the Gang of Eight and the lead sponsor of the immigration bill that is pending in the United States Senate that'll hopefully get through there and then go on to the House. Senator, it's a pleasure to have you here, and this has been a busy week for you, I think.
Well, first of all, Governor, thanks for having me on, and it has been a busy week. And it's good. I mean, the Senate's actually working. The first 2 years I was here, we just sat around all day, and I mean, there wasn't a lot of activity. Unfortunately, the Democrats had basically frozen the process. So we'll have votes today on the gun bill, and I think there's actually a really good alternative that's been crafted by Senators Grassley and Cruz, which doesn't infringe on Second Amendment rights but deals with violence in America. Obviously, we've all been following this horrible tragedy in Boston, and a reminder of how vigilant we need to remain, and we'll see what the news is later today on that. And of course, this issue on immigration is, you know, we've reached the starting point, and obviously a lot of work remains to be done and many, many weeks of debate, amendments, and so forth. But I thought it was an important step, and I look forward to engaging people on it and seeing how we can improve on it.
You spoke on all of the talk shows last week, 7 of them. I think you have a new record now, so that's significant. But the substance of the bill says there's not going to be an amnesty provision. That's something you were very adamant about, something that would be very important to a lot of people. But there is at least a process through which people can come out of hiding and participate in the American workforce. How does it work so that it isn't amnesty?
Well, first of all, it's important to understand what the law is today. The law today says that if you are illegally in the United States, it doesn't prevent you from becoming a citizen one day. All it says is you have to leave the country, and you have to wait 10 years before you can become a permanent resident, and then another 3 to 5 years before you become a citizen. So there is an existing pathway to citizenship right now for people that are illegally in the country. The problem is that millions of people that are in this country illegally have been here for more than a decade, and they've got children that are U.S. citizens, and they're not going to leave. And so the choice before us is we're not going to round them up and deport them. We're just not that kind of society. We can't ignore the problem. So what we do is we ask people to come forward, undergo a background check, pay a significant fine. Obviously, if they've committed any crimes, they'll have to leave, pay an application fee, and in return for all that, the only thing they're going to get is a temporary worker permit that allows them to work in the United States, and that you have to renew that after 6 years. It's not forever. Beyond it, you won't qualify for any federal benefits, and that's important to understand. You can't go on welfare, you can't get food stamps, you can't even get Obamacare. The only thing you qualify for is to work and pay your taxes, and you only get that for 6 years, and then at the 6-year point, you have to reapply, pay another fine, pay another application fee, and you have to prove you've been paying taxes the last 6 years and that you're employed. You have to prove that you're not a burden on society, and then you still have to stay in that for another 4 years. And then assuming that 10 years have gone by that you've been in that status, and assuming that the border's been secured, that E-Verify has been put in place across the country, that the entry-exit tracking system for visas has been put in place, because I don't know if people are aware of this, but 40% of the people that are illegally here came in legally, and they overstayed. Assuming all 3 of those things has happened and the 10 years has gone by, then the only thing you get is the chance to apply for a green card. It's not awarded to you. You apply for a green card. And of course, that if you get that, then you become a permanent resident. And my last point is, during the first 5 years of your green card, you don't get federal benefits either. So I think it's a responsible approach to it. It's not perfect, nothing is, but it's certainly a lot better than leaving things the way they are right now.
You know, listening to the various stages that a person has to go through, I'm not that surprised that Republicans would be for it. It sounds like a fairly rigid kind of pathway. I'm surprised that Democrats are going to be for it. So you've got, obviously, Democrats who are very much for the bill. How are they brought around? Because this is certainly not what they probably want.
Well, I think they obviously feel like there's an opportunity to actually deal with this issue once and for all. That doesn't mean everybody on the left is going to like it. I think there's certainly people on the left who prefer to leave things the way they are so they can use this for political purposes. There are others that would like to award citizenship in 3 years or something absurd like that, and we'll hear from them. There are many that think there shouldn't be a fine, X, Y, and Z, but bottom line is that I think we've been able to convince people that this is the best chance to deal with this issue in a way that's responsible, and these are the principles. Look, I mean, I was prepared to go this alone and do this on my own. I laid out my principles. There was a group that came to me and said, your principles are principles we could live with, and so I agreed to work with them. Obviously, this is just the beginning, of course. Now this is an 800-page bill. It's not 1,500 pages pages like some people suspected. It's 800 pages, but this is just the beginning. There's going to be multiple hearings, hopefully, in different committees here moving forward, and in fact, that the Senate Judiciary Committee will not even begin to do debate on it until the week of May 7th. So I think that gives us some extra time to review and come up with ways to make it better.
One of the things that I heard you say was that your own mother wouldn't have been able to have come in under this provision.
Right.
So it's not like you're doing this in a way that is deeply personal. I mean, I found that rather remarkable that things have changed, and I think that was the way you put it, that there are a lot of changes since 1955.
That's right. My parents, when they came to this country, it was a different time and a different era. And the truth is that we need a legal immigration system now that's more based on merit and skills than simply who you know over here. And so when my parents came in the 50s, it made some sense that basically immigration was based upon whether you had a family member here that would bring you. We've redefined that now. Basically, the only family-based immigration now will be people that are reuniting with their spouses or their minor children. You won't be able to bring your sisters or brothers, which is how my parents came. And as I said, that was a policy that might have made sense 60 years ago, but in the 21st century it no longer does. And that's a major change here, because this move from this employment-based to an employment-based to a merit-based, from a family-based to a merit-based, is a major reform that's very positive for our economy and for our country.
And I do think that that's an important thing to note, is that just because a person has, they often called either an anchor baby or an anchor family member, that doesn't automatically mean that everyone of the whole family can start coming over and, lay claim to at least American green cards or workforce and ultimately citizenship. So that would be a huge change.
That's right.
In the law.
Right. I mean, you're going to have to prove that you have an employable skill. In order to be able to come over under this new system, it's largely going to be based on whether you have an employable skill or an employer that's willing to hire you. I mean, there is a family component. We certainly want to keep husbands and wives together. We certainly want to keep children and parents together. But you're not going to be able to say, my sister or my brother lives in this other country and I want him to move to the United States. And there's going to be protests about that. And I understand, believe me, as I told you, that's how my parents came. But the world has changed, and I think America's legal immigration system has to become more economics-based and less family-based in that regard.
You mentioned the gun bill that will come up this afternoon. The Manchin-Toomey bill appears to be in trouble, not enough votes to get to 60. You have said you'll vote against it. I think a lot of Republicans are uncomfortable with it. And, it seems like it once again puts a lot of burden on people who haven't broken any law and doesn't really enforce anything against those who have broken laws.
And that's why we're working on an alternative. That's the lead sponsors for it are Senators Grassley and Cruz, and it takes some of the components of Toomey Manchin, but I think it actually improves it. For example, it clarifies that mental health records go into the database now, only the ones that are adjudicated, then therefore, people that have gone through due process, not just someone who's accused of being, because I think we've got some issues with that. But it stiffens the penalties on trafficking and on straw purchasers. It increases prosecution of attempts to buy guns by unauthorized persons. It authorizes a study on the cause of mass shootings, because I think we're focused on the wrong thing here, Governor. I think I've heard you say that. This is not about guns. This is about violence. And we need to have a conversation about why has America become so violent? Why are so many of our young people become willing to carry out not just atrocities like this, but this horrifying case of this young girl who committed suicide because some boys taped her after, violating her. And I mean, these horrible stories we're hearing in society, I think it's going to lead us back to a conclusion that societal breakdown is having a dramatic impact on us economically, morally, socially, across the board. And it's important that we have that conversation.
Well, Senator, great to have you here, and I appreciate your time this afternoon. I think you're on the right track with the immigration bill. It sounds like it is a very responsible and even-handed approach that I hope Republicans and Democrats can come together on, because Lord knows this has been an ongoing problem. Not resolving it is an unacceptable thing, and I commend you for your leadership in trying to get it at least pushed forward.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this, and I look forward to coming back many times more and explaining more about it.
Well, you are always welcome, and you have a standing invitation to be here anytime. My
Thank you,
best to
Governor.
your family, and it's great to talk to you.
Thank you.